There are many devices that help us live our lives more comfortably, whether it's your phone's alarm clock or the navigation system in your car. Some advanced technological inventions that appear to be the products of recent advancements appear to be embedded in our daily routine. Surprisingly, this is not true. Many of the devices and technologies we use today were invented many thousands of years ago by the genius of ancient civilizations. We'll go over some of these ancient inventions that we still use today in this video. 1. Concrete. Concrete, the building block for the majority of today's urban centers, has become critical for the infrastructure we are accustomed to. Concrete is used all over the world to build strong and dependable structures, whether they are skyscraper foundations or roads. This monumental invention in urban planning has been around for many centuries, with the earliest traces dating back to 6500 BC. These traces from Syria and Jordan claim to show concrete floors for houses and even underground cisterns. However, it wasn't until 600 BC that the Romans began to make widespread use of the material. Pozzolana, a paste made from volcanic ash, slaked lime, and seawater, was then filled into wooden forms to create a brick-like structure. Once formed, these bricks were used throughout Roman architecture, with remnants still visible today. Surprisingly, unlike many other items in this video, concrete has an interesting history, as technology appears to have taken a step back after the fall of the Roman Empire. This is because the technique for producing concrete was seemingly forgotten until the 18th century. It wasn't until modern concrete was invented that the material truly regained its glory. 2. Paper. With knowledge being something that truly transcends time, it is critical to pass it on. That being said, how can we ensure that knowledge is passed down through generations? For many centuries, the ancient invention of paper has allowed for the documentation and storage of stories, history, books, and many other written works for others to see. This thin material, which is often made of natural fibers, was invented more than 2 millennia ago, around 100 AD, by an imperial Chinese court dignitary named Cai Luan. Although traces of paper can be traced back even further, it was Cai Luan's reinvention of the process that enabled reliable sheets to be produced in rapid succession. These sheets quickly became the norm for Chinese royalty and nobility, and gradually spread throughout the world, with the help of various materials for the process such as wood chips, rags, cotton, and more. Even today, the base process for the paper we use is the same as it was 2,200 years ago. This demonstrates how timeless this knowledge was. 3. Compass. Checking your compass to see if you were facing north, south, east, or west could have been the only way to navigate long distances a few centuries ago. Even today, many hikers, travelers, and people in the wilderness carry compasses in order to find their way around nearly the entire world. Did you know, however, that the compass was not originally used for navigation? Compasses, which were invented between the 2nd and 1st centuries BC, were primarily used for fortune-telling, gemstone discovery, and even divination during the Han Dynasty. It wasn't until many years later that people realized how useful it could be as a navigation tool. Surprisingly, it took a long time for this to gain traction, and with early compasses made of a single lodestone attached to some rope, things weren't easy. So, while compasses for navigation were invented around 200 BC, it wasn't until the 11th century AD that they were confirmed and widely used in Chinese military applications. 4. Maps. When it comes to compasses, what is one item that goes hand in hand with a compass and has been used by nearly every traveler, ship captain, and military officer for millennia? That's correct, maps. Cartography, or the study of making and using maps, has actually been around for nearly as long as, if not longer than, compasses. While the earliest traces can be traced back to Babylon, the first actual world map was created in 610 BC. This map, created by the ancient Greek philosopher Anaximander, was a watershed moment in world history. It was created on a tablet and featured the Nile River flowing along the southern end and the Caspian Sea covering the east, among many other unique features that were revolutionary at the time. While many of these assumptions proved to be incorrect later on, This map would pave the way for mapping the entire globe. 5. Mints. It's obvious that no one wants to talk to someone who has bad breath. In the worst-case scenario, you may decide not to communicate with them at all. The ancient Egyptians were exactly the same, and stinky breath was considered a taboo in their society. Back in the days before Christ, they invented beautiful breath mints to solve this stinky problem. These pellet-shaped mints, made with a boiled mixture of myrrh, cinnamon, honey, and frankincense, would do the job quickly and rid the Egyptians of any breath-related issues. 6. Water mills. The water mill is a large mechanical invention that dates back to the 4th century BC and has historical traces that go back even further. One of the earliest known traces comes from the Greek scientist Philon of Byzantium, who mentioned descriptions of water mills in his book Pneumatica around 250 BC. Having said that, the invention of the water mill is often linked to the Roman engineer Vitruvius, who provided a complete technical description of the mechanical device. The Roman water mills were used to process grains, and they used an undershot water wheel connected to a gear mechanism to complete movements. As a result, the entire mechanical aspect could be hidden away beneath the grain mill for a more pleasant experience. Water mills have advanced tremendously over time and can now be used much more efficiently with durable and effective designs. 7. Alarm clock. Alarm clocks are a necessity in most people's lives and are used on a daily basis all over the world. These clocks have been saving you from trouble for many years, whether it is helping them wake up in the morning or simply as a reminder for a meeting. However, it's not just you. They've been saving people for over 2,000 years. This is because the first alarm clock was invented in ancient Greece around 400 BC by the Greek philosopher Plato. Having said that, because he was a very promotional version of the invention, with only a water clock and a water organ for signaling lectures, the invention is often attributed to Hellenistic engineer Ctesibius around 250 BC. Ctesibius' alarm clock was far ahead of its time, with a dial and pointer to indicate the time and a system that dropped small pebbles onto a gong at specific times to ring the alarm. Furthermore, it can be programmed to sound the alarm at any time you specify. Alarm clocks are still essentially the same after 2,000 years, despite being much smaller and more efficient. 8. Indoor/covered plumbing. What's worse than flushing the toilet and hearing the dreaded water not flushing sound? Consider not having a covered plumbing system at all. That's what people had to deal with until the ancient Egyptians invented the first known plumbing system around 2000 BC. The Egyptians invented complex underground drainage systems that were linked to bathrooms and tombs at the time due to their impressive focus on hygiene. This enabled various advancements such as bathtub draining, toilet flushing, and much more. These systems, which revolved around the Nile River, were made of clay or copper pipes and would lead wastewater into the Nile River to keep cities clean. Overall, it is not far from the type of systems that are currently in use. 9. Central heating system. Like staying warm in the comfort of your own home regardless of the weather outside? You can thank the ancient Greeks for the incredible central heating system that keeps your home warm and comfortable. These brilliant engineers and inventors created the first central heating system in Ephesus Temple sometime before Christ. This system used ducts connected to underground fires to guide hot air into the temple, keeping it warm regardless of the weather outside. A few centuries later, the Romans were also known to use slightly more widespread heating systems known as hypocausts, which worked with the assistance of underground furnaces. Aside from that, archaeological sites have revealed similar heating structures developed in Korea. As a result, we may never know who invented the first central heating system. Whatever the case may be, at least we can stay warm inside. 10. The hot tub. Few things sound better than relaxing in a warm hot tub on a chilly winter day. These relaxing and enjoyable inventions, however, have been around for much longer than you might think. The hot tub was invented as a way to keep clean because the ancient Egyptians were known to bathe multiple times a day, similar to how breath mints were invented to combat stinky breath. These early hot tubs were known to have added essential oils and flowers for therapeutic aromas, which is very similar to what is done today.